Why can't the United States handle rare earths? It sounds unbelievable. A country that can build the F-35 fighter jet, chips, and massive aircraft carriers. Yet on the periodic table of elements, we've got them, firmly pinned. Even more dramatic, it's not that the US lacks mines, it lacks the expertise. The rare earth where they dig up must be shipped all the way to Baotou, China, for processing, only to be sold back to the US later. Think of it this way. When it comes to rare earths, America can only do the most basic, least profitable work. Meanwhile, the real high-tech value, the highest margins, are entirely controlled by China. And you must know, the more advanced technology becomes, the more it needs rare earths. An F-35 requires 417 kilograms of them. An Arleigh Burke-class destroyer needs over 2 tons of neodymium iron boron magnets. A large wind turbine's permanent magnet rotor requires hundreds of kilograms of rare earth alloys. And in the chip industry, from optical lenses to laser lithography to capacitors and inductors inside every chip, rare earth elements are indispensable. In other words, no rare earths, no semiconductors. No semiconductors, no artificial intelligence, no advanced military tech. So the question is, if rare earths are this crucial, why can't the US fix this weakness? First, some quick science. Rare earths include light and heavy categories, and they're not a single element, but a mixture of many elements. Most people look at those symbols, totally confused. So just remember, they are tightly linked to high technology, and heavy rare earths are far more important. Many believe China dominates rare earths because we have more resources, but geologically speaking, the US has plenty of rare earth reserves too. According to US Geological Survey data, America holds about 2 million tons of rare earth reserves, second only to China, ahead of Vietnam, Brazil, and Russia, ranking 7th globally. And in California's Mojave Desert, there lies a world-famous rare earth mine, Mountain Pass. Back in the 1960s and 70s, it supplied nearly 70% of the world's rare earths. But here's the problem: rare earth ores look ordinary, yet mining them becomes a chemical nightmare. There are 17 different elements with almost identical chemical properties. To separate them, you must wash them in strong acids dozens of times, then do solvent extraction and precipitation. The precision required is extreme. One mistake, a whole batch is ruined. And that's just the technical complexity. The real headache is the chemical wastewater and toxic residues. To produce just 1 ton of rare earth oxides, you generate nearly 2,000 tons of wastewater and tons of solid waste. If mishandled, some even contain radioactive metals. In short, rare earth production is low profit and constantly criticized. So by the 1990s, environmental regulations in the US kept tightening due to pipeline leaks and chemical wastewater contamination. The EPA issued multiple penalties, eventually shutting Mountain Pass down. By the time it reopened in 2017, they were shocked to discover China had already seized the entire supply chain, or from Mountain Pass, could only be shipped to China for processing, and the profits stayed in China. From that moment on, America shifted from industry leader to outsource miner. Meanwhile, after decades of hard work, China completed the entire value chain. From mining, to refining, to magnet manufacturing. Of course, the US is fully aware of this chain's importance. But for Silicon Valley investors, alchemists just can't compete with tech visionaries. I can make a stock price grow tenfold. Rare earths only add more holes to the land. And so, this niche and unpopular business completely disappeared from America's books. But instead, it became China's hidden trump card. Let me put it this way: rare earths of the entire world are basically in China's hands. Not because we have endless reserves, but because our smelting and separation technology leads the world. In 2024, China controlled over 87% of global rare earth refining capacity and 92% in magnet materials. Every 10 grams of usable rare earths, 9 grams are refined in China. Of course, this advantage didn't happen overnight. It was dug out over decades, one bit at a time. Rare earth mining, separation, and industrial expansion are an entire systemic project. Every step demands capital, technology, environment, and tight coordination with the market. Without strong administrative force, it is easy to be led astray by profit seekers. In the 1980s and 90s, China was once extremely reckless with mining because at that time, our foundation was weak. We desperately needed foreign currency, yet we lacked refining technology and had no high-tech industries, so we couldn't use rare earths ourselves, and we exported wildly. At the most irrational moments, we sold rare earths like dirt. Until after joining the WTO, China started engaging in low-end processing. The profit was pitiful, but at least we built a foundation for sustained growth. Later, we gradually consolidated and climbed upward. With more and more resources, we could export value. We no longer needed to trade rare earths just for foreign currency. Starting around 2003, China began tightening rare earth exports. Refining and separation technologies rapidly upgraded. Primary raw exports were banned. Large-scale crackdowns on smuggling began. Production was strictly controlled, so domestic companies had no choice but to improve product quality. China's rare earth companies have become more and more advanced in refining and upgrading technology. They are at least 5 to 10 years ahead of foreign competitors. The number of patent applications exceeds all other countries combined. China's processing capacity is nearly 5 times the rest of the world together. Look at the new energy sector. China produces 90% of the world's rare earth permanent magnet motors. Companies like Tesla, Panasonic, and Toyota all rely on companies such as Ningbo Jinshi and JL Mag Rare Earth to supply their materials. NVIDIA's chips, ASML's lithography machines, also cannot avoid Chinese rare earths. Even the US Pentagon has admitted, in the F-35 supply chain, at least 9 materials, directly or indirectly, come from China. They want to replace Chinese suppliers, but certifying new materials alone takes at least 5 years to start, so eventually they still have to buy from China. You could say, what China holds is not just minerals, but the ** global technology switch **. Without Chinese rare earths, what reindustrialization can America dream of? Their 6th-generation fighter would remain on PowerPoint slides only. In recent years, the US government has held countless hearings. Defense, energy, and industry heads took turns speaking, opposing China's rare earth dominance, trying to solve the supply chokehold problem. It all sounds very familiar, but when it comes to action, it's a total mess. First problem, cost. In China, refining 1 ton of rare earths costs around $10,000. The same process in the US costs $30 to $50,000. This gap is not only labor and energy, but colossal difference in scale. Just one industrial park in Baodu matches the entire US national output. When production scales differ, cost differences are inevitable. Besides, US companies are all publicly traded. Shareholders want exploding profits, not national security. Rare earths are long cycle, a business with, basically, nitrogen monoxide profit. In the eyes of capital, it's just a losing deal, burning money. Next, the environmental problem. During the refining of the stuff, huge amounts of wastewater and toxic residue are produced. We already talked about this. We managed to rise up because we started from nothing. We had to push production first, profits later. But in the US, just the environmental assessment can drag on for 2 or 3 years. To build a factory, they need hearings, community voting, media coverage, before the factory even breaks ground. The costs already skyrocket. And then, industrial hollowing out. Doing drugs is not the final product. You still need to make magnets, alloys, motor components. But those factories in the US were sold off last century. After the year 2000, General Electric, Motorola, DuPont, all exited this supply chain. If you ask America to rebuild now, that's like preparing for the college exam from the WOMB. Even if they finally build something, no one's buying anytime soon. One more hidden problem. Policy swings. The US political cycle is too short. Presidents change every 4 years. Policies get rebooted every time. But this drug industry needs 10 plus years of constant investment. It's not something a certain big golden dog can fix with a few tweets. And so, we see this magical phenomenon. 2010, Japan gets restricted by China. The US instantly announces a drug independence plan. 2019, Trump starts his trade war. Suddenly, a national strategic project is declared. And a critical minerals list too. 2022, Biden throws more money into it, trying to build a drug supply chain among friends. But after all these years, the US drug industry is still only on paper. Technologically, they're not behind. Strategically, they see everything clearly. The drug supply chain is just too long, too slow. No one wants to do all the dirty, boring groundwork. By contrast, China's drug industry has long been a closed loop, or comes out of the mountains, and within 500 kilometers, it becomes motors and final products. What America lacks isn't just technology, but that industrial muscle polished over decades. Technology can be blocked, but a full industrial chain can't be rebuilt overnight. The bullet America fired years ago has finally come back and hit them. They block our chips. We control their rare earth. In the end, this battle is no longer tech versus capital. It's a clash of two industrial civilizations. No matter how it ends, we will never be the first to bow our heads.